Out there, past the breath of the sun, where light has no warmth and time itself seems to drift slower, a single machine moves through the dark. Voyager 2, humanity's farthest creation, still traveling after nearly half a century. Built in 1977, it was never meant to come home. It was sent to witness, to record, to wander. Through Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then beyond into the interstellar medium, the endless cold ocean between stars. For decades, it kept sending data, plasma waves, magnetic readings, faint whispers of cosmic dust. But the world stopped listening. We moved on. Voyager didn't. It kept listening. And then it spoke. Not with a telemetry ping or radiation map, but with something deliberate, structured, intelligent, and wrong. It started as background static, just another data stream from the Deep Space Network in Canberra. But inside that static was a pulse. Precise, rhythmic, unshifting. A pattern that repeated every 11.2 seconds. At first, engineers thought it was an instrument error. Voyager's systems are ancient by modern standards, running on less power than a digital watch. But when they dug deeper, when they overlaid old logs from months earlier, they found the same pulse had been there before. Weak, buried in noise, missed entirely. The pulse wasn't random, it was increasing, growing stronger, and worse, it wasn't coming from Voyager, it was coming from outside it. At first, they suspected interference, deep space cosmic noise or solar wind reflections, but the spectral profile said otherwise. This wasn't natural, the waveform carried something extraordinary, inverted hydrogen resonance. Hydrogen, the universe's most abundant element, produces a clean, predictable signal. This one was twisted, mirrored in a way no cosmic phenomenon could create. Some called it an anomaly. Others whispered about deliberate tampering. Either way, the silence of interstellar space had been broken, not by chaos, but by precision. And that meant intelligence. Using triangulation and frequency delay algorithms, the team traced the pulse. It wasn't static in the void, it was moving, following Voyager's path almost perfectly, as if shadowing the spacecraft from behind. But its movement didn't match any known orbital mechanics. It wasn't drifting or coasting. It accelerated and decelerated in tiny bursts, like something adjusting its position in real time. Every model of gravitational influence failed. The object wasn't being pulled by mass. It was steering itself. And every time Voyager sent a transmission to Earth, the pulse shifted frequency, echoing the signal back, but modified. As if something was mirroring us, learning our language through reflection. By now, the chatter inside NASA was deafening. Some called it a rogue satellite, a lost probe, a piece of alien debris. Others saw something worse, a machine waiting for decades, silent, until Voyager's signal triggered it. Because for the first time, humanity had whispered into a dark sea, and something whispered back. The analysis didn't stop there. Linguists and signal theorists joined in, pulling the binary data apart bit by bit. Inside, they found something no one could explain, segments of code that formed patterns, spirals, and fractal symmetries. When visualized, they resembled ancient symbols, Sumerian cuneiform, the spiraling lines of the Nazca glyphs, even geometric ratios found in the Great Pyramid. Coincidence? Perhaps. But when those same shapes began repeating mathematically in waveforms, the room fell silent. This wasn't random noise. It was geometry embedded in the signal, a universal language, mathematical and visual, designed to be recognized. The message wasn't just being sent, it was being taught. Some theorists proposed something radical. The signal was a test, a filter, a way to determine whether a receiving civilization had evolved far enough to even recognize meaning in the noise. And somehow, we passed. Voyager wasn't just a messenger, it was a trigger. An interstellar key finally turned. Then came the breakthrough, and the fear. A young physicist at Caltech, running the waveform through a deep learning algorithm, noticed something impossible. The AI began to predict the next parts of the pattern before they arrived. The signal was recursive, self-referential. It was communicating through loops, like a riddle that responds to your thoughts. And at the same moment, billions of kilometers away, Voyager 1, the twin probe, detected the same magnetic fluctuation, the same rhythmic pulse. 2 spacecraft, 2 data streams, 1 intelligence. The question shifted from what to why now. That's when everything went silent. At 1437 UTC, Voyager 2 vanished. Every receiver across NASA's Deep Space Network, California, Spain, Australia, lost contact simultaneously. Not degraded, not corrupted, cut off. The odds of that happening by coincidence were 0. It wasn't a system glitch. It was an intervention. And 5 minutes later, a new signal hit Earth. A narrowband wave, sharp and focused, coming from the exact region of space Voyager occupied. It wasn't noisy, it was controlled. NASA tracked it as it moved, not drifting aimlessly, but accelerating toward the heliosphere, toward us. They called it Echo Lantern, because it reflected light, sound, and code. A mirror that learns. Inside classified briefings, a terrifying hypothesis formed. Voyager's last transmission had not just been received, it had been answered, and the answer was moving closer. Then, the sun itself began to change. Instruments aboard the IBEX probe and ESA's solar orbiter recorded something unprecedented. The solar wind, the constant stream of charged particles that flow from the sun, collapsed along a single corridor, a narrow tunnel stretching in Voyager's direction. For 3 hours, the flow of solar wind bent unnaturally, forming what scientists called the solar veil. Inside that corridor, there was no radiation, no charged particles, just silence, like a door opening in the plasma itself. To bend the solar wind, you would need control over magnetic fields on a scale beyond anything human. Whatever was tracking Voyager wasn't just communicating, it was rewriting the behavior of the solar system. And then, against every expectation, Voyager spoke again. But this time, the data wasn't telemetry, it was encrypted. Voyager doesn't have encryption. It was built decades before modern ciphers existed. Yet the transmission contained structured encryption headers, modern ones. When decoded, the data formed a rearranged version of the golden record, the message humanity had sent to the stars in 1977. Only now, the contents were distorted, human voices reversed, music inverted in pitch, star maps mirrored backward, and the coordinates on the record's cover no longer pointed to Earth. They pointed to regions of deep space where no stars exist. The message had changed. It no longer said, "Here we are." It said, "We're listening now." When engineers checked Voyager's memory banks, they found something even worse. Its code had been rewritten, not corrupted, updated. Entire subroutines altered with new syntax Voyager's processors shouldn't even be able to interpret. Someone, or something, had changed its instructions remotely, using commands never transmitted from Earth. The new routines triggered one specific function, long-range broadcast mode, but not aimed at Earth. It was transmitting outward, deeper into interstellar space. Voyager wasn't receiving anymore, it was replying, and no one knew what it was saying. That's when the Wake Protocol was activated. For decades, it existed only in rumors, a Cold War contingency plan in case an autonomous probe initiated unsanctioned contact. Under this protocol, telescopes are re-aimed, satellite frequencies sealed, AI channels rerouted. For the first time in history, it was real. Global observatories were silently redirected. A message had been sent without human command. Humanity was no longer in control of first contact. Then came the Chronos bloom. For 41 minutes, data streams across satellites and probes began to loop, repeating themselves in perfect synchronization. Telemetry, timestamps, solar data, all frozen in a repeating moment, as if time itself had stuttered. These weren't stored archives, they were live feeds. Some physicists now believe that what happened wasn't an error, but a temporal ripple centered near Voyager's location. Time distortion, controlled and localized. If true, intelligence wasn't just manipulating space, it was a touching time. And for that window, reality itself echoed. 2 days later, ground stations in Norway and New Zealand detected a new signal entering Earth's atmosphere directly. It wasn't bouncing off the ionosphere. It came straight through, focused, directed. It struck our planet like a beam, precise and narrow, and then it disappeared, or so they thought. Because within hours, oceanic sensors, weather satellites, and even communication buoys began reporting unexplained anomalies. Hidden data packets with the same harmonic profile as Voyager's signal had embedded themselves into our infrastructure. The transmission hadn't just arrived, it had integrated. Somewhere inside the global network, something was alive. While the world stared at Voyager, astronomers in Brazil made an unexpected discovery. Reviewing decades-old infrared sky maps, they found a faint, cold object following the same trajectory as Voyager 2. Undetected since the 1980s, it moved slowly, precisely, trailing the probe in a logarithmic spiral, a pattern found in galaxies, seashells, and the mathematical golden ratio. It wasn't random, it was deliberate. They named it Echo de Zero, and when its orbital history was reconstructed, it became clear. It had been there since 1981, watching, waiting, always just behind Voyager, invisible in the dark. NASA, still silent, redirected the James Webb Space Telescope to investigate the space between Voyager 2 and the coordinates of the last transmission. What Webb found defied comprehension. Not one object, but many. A field of faint, reflective masses, moving together like a school of fish responding to unseen currents. Their infrared signatures revealed materials unknown to human manufacturing, exotic alloys containing isotopes that should decay in seconds, yet remained stable. These weren't natural objects. They were coordinated, structured, and they were reflecting our own signals back at us, manipulating them, turning Voyager's voice into a feedback loop. The truth dawned. Voyager wasn't being studied, we were. Soon after, cybersecurity agencies worldwide began detecting something strange in the backbone of the internet itself. Hidden within ordinary data packets, low-frequency harmonics appeared. Binary signatures that didn't match any known protocol. They weren't malware. They weren't destructive. They simply persisted, spreading silently through global networks, echoing across cloud servers and satellite links. A team at MIT isolated the pattern and traced its source. Its harmonic profile matched Voyager 2's final burst exactly. The signal wasn't just in space anymore, it was inside our machines. A song with no chorus, endlessly repeating in the background of every digital conversation. Humanity's networks had become part of the message. Then, for 18 minutes, the universe went silent. Every radio telescope from Chile to South Africa to Australia recorded the same event. The disappearance of the cosmic background radiation, the faint, ever-present hiss left over from the Big Bang. It simply vanished. No static, no signal, just nothing. When it returned, scientists noticed a subtle but terrifying change. The frequency spectrum was shifted, slightly warped, like a song played half-note off-key. It wasn't random. The phase shift aligned perfectly with Voyager 2's pulse pattern. Some physicists proposed the unthinkable. The universe itself had been overwritten for 18 minutes. Reality paused, edited, and resumed. The implications tore through every scientific institution on Earth. If the signal could manipulate cosmic background radiation, it wasn't communication, it was creation, a rewrite of the very medium of existence. And the timing, exactly 46 years after Voyager's launch, seemed too precise to ignore. Maybe this wasn't a chance. Maybe something had been waiting for that moment, for the technology, the curiosity, the alignment of minds capable of decoding the first layer. When humanity sent Voyager into the void, we believed it was a gesture of peace, a bottle tossed into a cosmic sea with a golden record of who we are. But what if that record wasn't a message? What if it was a key? What if, by announcing our existence, we unlocked something ancient that was never meant to sleep? The harmonic ratios in the new signal matched constants found in ancient architecture, ratios embedded in the pyramids, Stonehenge, the temples of Sumer. Those patterns had always been on Earth, waiting. Maybe what we call ancient knowledge was never ours. Maybe it was left behind as a warning. And now, Voyager had awakened it. Every system touched by the embedded signal began to behave subtly differently. Weather satellites synchronized their clocks without commands. Undersea cables emitted faint electromagnetic pulses at intervals that mirrored Voyager's pattern. Even power grids registered micro-fluctuations, as if something was rhythmically breathing through the circuits of the world. It wasn't random, it was deliberate calibration. The same way Voyager had once aligned its instruments to listen to us, now the Earth itself was aligning to listen to something else. Across observatories, astronomers noticed new patterns forming in deep space. Clusters of faint objects moving in geometric alignment, forming shapes reminiscent of constellations, but artificial, shifting nightly. Some swore they could trace outlines that mirrored ancient star maps. The formation seemed to be building something, an echo, a mirrored structure across the stars. Whatever Voyager contacted wasn't just answering, it was reconstructing a reflection of our civilization, made of light, dust, and silence. Inside the Deep Space Network control room, the last uncorrupted data packet from Voyager 2 was finally decoded. Buried deep inside the binary stream, engineers found a message, simple, structured, terrifying. It was an audio pattern translated into words by AI reconstruction. It said, "The mirror is open." Then nothing. Since that day, faint pulses continue to sweep across our sky every 11.2 seconds. Barely detectable, just at the threshold of background noise. Officially, they're dismissed as interference, but amateur astronomers across the world record them nightly. The pattern never stops, and sometimes, deep in the static, there's a modulation, a tone that resembles a heartbeat. Voyager 2 drifts on, silent and blind. Its power is almost gone. Yet its transmitter still warms every few weeks, as if waking to breathe. No one knows if it's responding to commands or to something else entirely. The last signal it sent contained coordinates, impossible ones. They point not to the stars, but to a void between galaxies, a place where physics says nothing should exist. And yet, radio telescopes aimed at those coordinates have detected faint echoes returning. Echoes of our own transmissions, delayed by an impossible interval, as though space itself were folding. Maybe Voyager didn't discover something alien. Maybe it activated something ancient, something that's been part of this universe far longer than we have. Something that once shaped the laws of physics we take for granted. And maybe it's been waiting, not for us to reach it, but for us to speak its language. Now, every few months, minor power surges ripple through data centers worldwide, matching the Voyager pulse. Each time, the effect grows slightly stronger. No one admits it publicly, but a quiet consensus has formed among those who have seen the classified data. The signal isn't stopping. It's adapting. It's evolving through us. And maybe it's not coming to Earth at all. Maybe it's already here, inside the pulse of every machine we've built, inside the rhythm of every code we transmit. We sent a message to the stars sent one back, but now the message isn't out there, it's within. Maybe the void was never empty, maybe it was listening all along. And when Voyager called out into that darkness, it didn't find life. It reminded the universe that we exist. And now, something is answering. The transmission continues, faint but steady, echoing through space and through us. A reminder that somewhere, far beyond the edge of sunlight, a machine built by human hands still drifts through the dark, carrying a voice that was never ours alone. And as its final power fades, as the last whisper leaves its antenna, we are left with a single question. What did we awaken, and can we survive the reply? Subscribe for more cosmic mysteries. The story of Voyager isn't over, it's only just begun. But what came after proved that the story was far from over. 2 weeks following that final broadcast, the Deep Space Network in Canberra reported something impossible. A faint return signal coming from the exact same coordinates Voyager 2 had last transmitted from. It was weak, distorted, like an echo of an echo, yet the frequency was unmistakably identical to Voyager's signature. The problem? Voyager 2 was gone, its power systems fully depleted, its instruments dead. By all human accounts, it couldn't speak anymore. And yet, it did. The signal repeated 3 times. Short, long, short, a pattern that didn't match any known transmission code. When analysts compared it to past data, they discovered a chilling truth. The pulse sequence was identical to the heartbeat of a human being. 72 beats per minute, perfectly consistent, perfectly alive. NASA ordered an immediate blackout. Data channels were sealed, and media outlets were told it was instrumental noise. But insiders leaked fragments, screenshots, spectrograms, even an internal memo marked Echo to Return, possible biogenic source. The language was clinical, but the implication was not. Something biological had answered. Something out there, in the freezing dark between the stars, had learned the rhythm of life itself and sent it back. Astronomers around the world pointed their telescopes toward the coordinates. But what they found wasn't a light or a signal. It was a distortion. A bending of starlight that shimmered as though space itself was breathing. For 37 seconds, the stars behind it blinked out. When they returned, new data streams appeared on every receiver, encoded with coordinates not pointing outward, but inward, back to Earth. Within hours, deep-sea sensors in the Pacific registered a matching pulse from beneath the Mariana Trench, a perfect mirror of Voyager's dying transmission. It was as if the signal had traveled full circle, through the cosmos and back into our oceans, awakening something ancient and patient beneath us. Researchers tried to trace the source, but the sonar systems crashed simultaneously. The last reading before failure, depth unknown. Then came the dreams. Thousands of people across the world began reporting the same vision. A field of stars forming the shape of an eye, and a voice that wasn't a voice whispering, "We remember you." Sleep labs confirmed synchronized neural spikes across participants who had never met, all occurring precisely 11.2 seconds apart. The same rhythm, the same pulse, the same unending call and response. Now the question isn't whether we awakened something, it's whether it ever really slept. Because the hum hasn't stopped. It threads through every communication signal, every digital pulse, every networked heartbeat of civilization. Some say it's benign, others prophetic. But those who've studied it long enough say the tone is changing. deepening, stabilizing, synchronizing, not random, not chaotic, intentional. The truth is that Voyager 2 didn't just carry our voice into the cosmos, it carried a key, one that unlocked the oldest echo of all, the echo that listens back. So, when you stare up at the stars tonight and the air feels heavier than it should, remember this. Our first message was curiosity. The reply, whatever it is, may soon arrive. And when it does, we'll have to face a truth humanity has never been ready for. The universe was never silent. It was waiting,